Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn and today I have for you something that has been requested so many times over the past couple of weeks. I'm so sorry, I've just been busy. But that is updates on all of the plants that I've gotten at Ecuagenera Pop-ups or imported from them over the past like 6 months or so. So I have that for you today. It's a lot of plants, so let's jump right into it. And we're gonna start with the first thing that I can reach, and that is this Anthurium Metallicum. So this is an Anthurium Metallicum. I got it from Ecuagenera's first ever pop-up in Calabasas back in June, and it didn't have this long leaf on the front of it when I got the plant, and it had absolutely zero roots, but it did have these two leaves back here. They were in a little bit better condition. I'm thinking I might have like underwatered this plant a little bit, even though it's just been in moss in the grow tent, but it definitely has a nice juicy root ball. It's done really well for me, and it's just been in my grow tent. I think honestly I have to credit the grow tent for saving this plant, because I really do think that without it, this plant would no longer be with us, but it might be ready to go into pawn. And so you might see that repot with me soon. But Anthurium Metallicum, alive, well, kicking, and looking absolutely stunning as ever. All right, so the next plant that I have to show you is this Philodendron Patriciae. Now, this has got this like rope tangled all over it because it's been hanging in my grow tent, but it's doing really, really well. If you watch the plant haul when I first showed this plant, you might remember it being a lot bigger, and yes, it was. In that vlog I did cut the plant in order to kind of get it into the container more easily, and this actually did really, really well, and it's already given me this leaf and then also this leaf. So the leaves are getting bigger, and then it's also already working on another one, so I'm very pleased with it. The top cutting did not fare as well, unfortunately. So I do have one of the leaves that was part of the top cutting still rooting, and I think it's gonna make it. There's a little growth point coming out, but I did lose a number of leaves on that top cutting. In retrospect, I wish that I had just kept it all in one piece. I would have a much bigger plant, but at least, you know, this part of it is doing really well, and this plant is so beautiful. Like, I'm just like looking at it and I'm like, oh man. But yeah, Philodendron Patriciae made it through the storm and it's doing well. It's still in my grow tent and I don't know when I'll ever take it out, but very happy with it for now. So next I have this really adorable Pepperomia Maculosa. This is actually the only Pepperomia that I currently have in my collection, and apparently it's quite rare, and I probably do not deserve to have it, but I do have it in my collection. It's doing really, really well. It rooted up absolutely amazing for me in moss, and oh, excuse the dust and the dog hair on the leaves, but it's really cool. It looks a lot like an Anthurium, which is one of the reasons that I got it, and it caught my eye, and it didn't really do anything for me for a while, but as you can see, it is now pushing out a couple of new leaves. Looks like there's 3 new leaves in there. 1, 2, 3 right here at the back. So very, very cool little plant. Definitely thrilled to have it. And yeah, it's doing really well. It actually looks like it's blooming. I think that right there is an inflorescence. So it's doing just fine for me in my open air and in moss. So very glad that I didn't kill this one, because I actually have killed every other Pepperomia I've ever had. So good for me, I guess. But yeah, there she is. She's doing great. Okay, so here is one that actually could be doing better. This is Anthurium Versicolor, and as you can see, it's yellowing a lot around the tips. I'm not exactly sure what it is that this plant's not happy with. Maybe it just didn't like all of the different changes of being imported. Maybe it's not getting enough airflow in the grow tent. Maybe it's not getting enough water. These leaves don't look amazing, but it has rooted a ton. So we've got like roots popping out everywhere, and it also is pushing out a new leaf. So maybe the foliage on this one is just a little bit more fragile, and the new growth is gonna come in and it'll do a lot better. Or maybe I'm just not taking care of it the way that it wants to be taken care of. We'll still have to wait and see, I guess. That's kind of just what happens with acclimating plants. But this is Anthurium Versicolor, and I do think it is a very cool Anthurium. It's kind of iridescent. You can kind of see the way it shines, and I really like it. it. So very cool plant. I will have to give you guys another update on this leaf once it's fully unfurled and hardened off and see if we get a little bit better results than I have with these, because yeah, it definitely makes me a little bit sad that they are not acclimating well. But if you feel these leaves, they're very, very, very thin, and they do have a little bit of like a satiny, almost velvet feel to them. So it doesn't really surprise me that they're super fragile, but yeah, I do wish that they looked as good as they did when I got the plant, but hope for the future springs eternal. So fingers crossed that in a couple of months, this plant will bounce back and be looking good. All right, so another Anthurium that is doing okay, but like could probably be doing better. This is Anthurium Marmoratum, and I really, really wanted this one. I thought it looked really similar to an Anthurium Cirinoi, and it's doing really well. As you can see, it's rooted up a ton, but I think it's just been a bit underwatered. This moss isn't super wet, and it actually had put out a new leaf, and I scooted it over to a different spot in the grow tent, and then the leaf shriveled up and died. So not exactly sure what's going on with this one, but I think that once I figure out what it wants, it's gonna do really well, and it's really beautiful. Like, I really like it. So doing well, rooted up really nicely. I think I need to water my grow tent. I think that's part of the problem, but you know, I can't really complain. Like, I find that sometimes after plants are imported or shipped, or they get stressed or shocked, the leaf that was in the caterpillar ends up getting aborted. So I'm not worried, but this has super, super papery thin leaves, and it's also velvet. So it kind of doesn't surprise me that the older leaves that came out when the plant was less mature are kind of declining, but very pretty plant, and it's hanging in there. All right, so this is Anthurium Lancea, and I got this in an order a couple months ago. I really like this plant. I think it's very cool. It has the most interesting texture, and I just think it looks like embossed leather almost. It's so ornate, and it is doing really, really well. It was never in like a grow tent or any sort of humidity enclosure. I just had it on different shelves. I think I did give it a little bit too much light. As you can see, this leaf is yellowing a bit. But other than that, it's doing really well, and it is pushing out a new leaf. So once this leaf is out, I'm just probably gonna take this one off, maybe, I don't know, but it's doing really well. I really like this plant. I highly recommend this if you want to try something new. If you want to try maybe a glossy leafed Anthurium, but you know, you haven't really seen one that you don't think is just too plain, this one, Anthurium Lancea, is so pretty. So I highly recommend this one. It's a pretty easygoing plant, and it does just fine in, you know, the 65% humidity out in open air in my house. So definitely a really cool plant. I would actually really love for this plant to take off in popularity, because I just think it's awesome and so, so, so underrated. Okay. Now, here's one that is just absolutely taken off, and that is apparently, allegedly, this is an Anthurium Regale affinis. I'm not really convinced that that's what this is. I have no idea what this is. I think it was mislabeled, but it is absolutely growing roots like crazy. Like, look at that. And it definitely needs to be repotted, but very, very cool. Definitely a good one for the people out there that like really wide lobes. I think it's a beautiful plant, and it's like, it hasn't flinched at all. It's definitely a very matte leaf. It doesn't have velvet. It's not shiny, but it is really beautiful. Like, I think this plant would look really good as kind of an accent plant, maybe alongside some of the other ones that are a little bit more ornate. But yeah, I really don't think that this is Anthurium Regale affinis though. I think it's mislabeled, but it's doing great, and it is growing like crazy, and I like it a lot. Okay, so now for the Queen Anthurium. They are doing amazing. They have both been in my grow tent. This is the Esmeralda, and this is the dark and narrow. And as you can see, both doing awesome. Foliage hasn't declined at all. They've just still been in moss, and they're just rooting up. I could probably pot these up whenever I'm ready, but I do think I have underwatered them a little bit, so I want to get them nice and juicy and healthy before I move them or shock them at all. So yeah, if you are thinking about getting a Queen Anthurium from Ecuagenera, I actually have a whole video about that, but a grow tent definitely makes it a lot easier. These girls are doing amazing. I got these on, I think, December 4th. So it's now January 19th or 20th, I think. So that is like 7-8 weeks ago. But yeah, doing fantastic. So just really cool. I love Queen Anthurium. They're so wonderful. They're just beautiful plants. And I'm so glad that these ones are doing well, but I did expect them to do well because they have been in the grow tent. So yeah, good news. Nothing but good news to report on this front. Okay, so I'm gonna show this one really quickly because I've had it on this channel a lot lately, but this is the Anthurium Splendidum that I got also at the December 4th pop-up in Calabasas. It's doing amazing. It hasn't flinched. It hasn't declined at all. It's actually put out that new leaf. It's outgrowing this jar, so I'm going to repot it. And yeah, it's doing great. I'm absolutely thrilled because I really, really love this plant. Ivan gave me like perfect care advice for it. It does really well without airflow, but it does need like uninterrupted 100% humidity. So if you are thinking about getting this plant, you're definitely going to need to keep it in some sort of enclosure. And it also does not grow cool, it grows warm. So he said Florida conditions, warm, high humidity, doesn't need airflow. So it's doing awesome. And don't worry, you'll be seeing this again soon because I'm really proud of this plant and I do love it. Okay, so the last plant that I have in here before we go out to the living room and I show you what's in the tabletop greenhouse is actually a plant that is the rarest plant in my collection. And I actually didn't mention this in my 2022 predictions video, but I've been seeing them pop up a lot more lately. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, this plant is kind of an it plant. Maybe it's all over the place, I don't know. But that is this beautiful Anthurium Longissimilobum. So I got this plant at the Santa Ana Zoo Orchid Show pop-up back in September, and it is just doing so well. These plants are really cool. This is probably the most unique plant that I own as far as just, it's not what I typically go for, but this Anthurium is actually one of the rarest Anthurium out there that's not, you know, like a specialty hybrid or something. And it's oftentimes called the Spiritus Sancti of Anthurium because it is very, very rare, but it's also kind of aesthetically similar to a Spiritus Sancti. It has the nice long lobes and it gets long and pendulous, but it's a very, very easy plant to grow. It's still just in moss in my open air in my bedroom. Ivan said that these plants absolutely really need a ton of airflow, so I didn't put it into the grow tent or any kind of enclosed chamber of any kind, and it's still doing so good. Look at all these roots, you know? Very, very pleased, and it's given me a new leaf that is, you know, a nice size, and it still isn't even fully hardened off yet. So yeah, it may continue to get a little bit bigger, but it's cool because when the new leaves come out, they are like a very, like a red color, and they're really beautiful. And I don't know why the lobes on the top of this are so flat on this new leaf when the rest of them are a little bit more V-shaped, but I'm not complaining. I think it's very, very cool, and it's definitely not something that you see every day. So probably one of the most prized plants in my collection. Very, very happy to have this in my care, and that is this Anthurium Longissimilobum. Apparently the reason that these are so rare is that when they do set seed, they don't produce very many. So they're really difficult to grow to maturity when you're only getting a few seeds from each pollination attempt, and that's why they're so rare. So very cool plant. I feel very special to have it before, you know, the craze kind of catches on, but Anthurium Longissimilobum, thriving, loving life, and I love growing this plant. It's a really rewarding one to grow. Alrighty, so if you can't tell, it's been like, I don't know, like 3 weeks probably since I filmed the last half of this video. You may be able to see I've cut my hair. It's a whole new season. Ralphie's a whole ass dog now. I've been busy, sorry. Those other plants that I showed you just now, I mean, they haven't really like changed that much. So I'm not gonna redo this video, but here's the rest of the plants. They're all in here. And I've spoken about this tabletop greenhouse on here a lot. And apparently it's sold out on Amazon now. So I guess I can take credit for that. Oh my God. So now that that is off and out of the way, I'm gonna show you the rest of the plants that I got from the couple of Ecuagenera pop-ups I went to. One of them was in September and then the other one was in early December. So it's been, what is it right now? It's like mid-February. It's been like 2.5 months, 3 months for some of them. So I'll kind of just show you like how they're doing, and you know, they're clearly all still alive, and I'll tell you kind of how I kept them alive. Okay, so I guess the first thing I'll show you is this, because it was like the closest. This is a Verrucosum fantasy, and it's been in the little tabletop greenhouse for, I don't know, since December 4th when I got it. And it's in this little like water propagation situation. This is kind of a weird shape, but it was kind of like what I had, and it worked pretty well because it has so many nodes at the bottom. I probably should clean this. Anyway, I'm like completely getting off track. Verrucosum fantasy. This is doing well. It like lost 2 of its other leaves, and then it gave me these 2 other ones since I got it. So it's clearly doing well, and it's clearly happy enough, and it's clearly still alive. So yeah, I really like this. It's really cute, and it's doing really well in there. So I'm pretty happy with the setup, and as you can see, it's like putting out aerial roots like crazy. So yeah, Verrucosum fantasy, doing great. Okay, so there's actually 2 things in here. This is the second and the third thing, I guess. This is a Philodendron Melanochrysum, and when I got this one back in September, and when I got it, it had like 3 leaves that were big like this, and I had just put it in water and was just letting it like sit out in open air, and clearly it didn't really like that. It didn't do very well for a while, but I finally put it into the tabletop greenhouse, and then it finally started to acclimate and really get going. That right there, those are roots on the Melanochrysum. So it's clearly going to live, even though unfortunately it's not in its huge long leaf glory that it was in when I first got it. It's doing okay, it's gonna survive. And it actually has put out this little leaf, which is super, super cute. And I'm gonna keep the whole plant together just to see if I can get it to size up more quickly, because if any of you guys like know me or have like watched this channel for a long time, like a big Melanochrysum is one of my like earliest plant wishes and one of my most like fervently elusive plant goals. Ralphie, no. Ralphie! Come on, come on! Oh, Christ. All right, where were we? It's just been one of those days, you guys. All right, so this Melanochrysum. A big Melanochrysum has been one of my most fervently elusive plant desires pretty much as long as I've kept aeroids. Like, it was the expensive rare plant that started it all for me, so I'm never gonna give up on it. But like, Christ, if it isn't difficult to get Melanochrysum to like cooperate. Like, for forever, the biggest video on this channel is Philodendron Melanochrysum canceled, and I stand by that. Like, I have another Melanochrysum on a pole, and it was doing really well, and I thought, okay, finally, here we go. Like, we're about to get there. We're about to get them big leaves. And then the Santa Ana winds hit, and both of the plants in the pot punched through their leaves, and I'm just like, I'm so irritated. But I finally decided that I have found a space in my house for a Millsbow wide. And so once I can find one, because they're literally sold out over the entire country, which is why I've never tried to get one in the past. But of course now I'm dead set on it. You can't get them anywhere. So wow, I digress. Once I get that, I'm gonna put the Melanochrysum in it, and hopefully we're gonna see like massive gains. But yeah, so this is still alive, but you know, it definitely took a hit. The other thing in this like in this contraption that I've like finagled is Philodendron Fibrosum, aka Philodendron Fuzzy Britches, as Rachel from Heart Shaped Leaves likes to say. This plant really took a hit on import. It had, I think, like 3 leaves when I got it. They're all lost and gone forever at this point. This one came out, it's beautiful. I'm not mad at this at all. It's like, oof. This plant has like a really interesting texture. It's like very, very like silken, like very fine satin, and it's very like reflective, but I wouldn't call it like a glossy leaf. I really like it. and then it gave me this other one. I've been like air layering, as you can see, trying to, you know, help it size up, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this plant once it outgrows the little, you know, tabletop greenhouse situation. I'll probably have to like cut it and propagate it, but I really like it. It took me a really long time to decide that I needed this plant, and yeah, once I got it into my possession, I was like, oh, I should have got this plant a long time ago. I feel like that's the way it is with so many aeroids. Like, anyway, but Melanochrysum and Fibrosum are doing good. All right, so the next plants that I got was this Philodendron Luxurians. It's humongous, and I wasn't actually going to buy anything at the pop-up. I was just going to pick up the plants that I had already ordered, but I saw this Philodendron Luxurians, and at the time it had 2 more leaves, and it was just in such good condition that I thought I would have a really good chance of acclimating it and having it do well, and it has done well. It's actually just still in water. This has been in water for like 2 months almost, and it rooted up like crazy, and it's doing really well. And you know, I really think that people sometimes really underestimate like how much water these Philodendron Luxurians want. Like, I have some other ones that I need to repot, and I'm gonna put them into Lechuza pond, because at this point it's just like they just love water. They're thirsty bitches. Like, there's just no way around it. They're so hard to keep wet. So this one, this is the leaf that was in the cataphyll when I got the plant, and as you can see, it incurred a little bit of damage when it was coming under the cataphyll. That, I think, is because it like rubbed up against a pot that was in there and kind of just damaged itself, but the leaf is all right, and you know, little cataphyll down there eventually will give us another one, so I'm not worried about it. This is actually by far the best success that I've ever seen with anybody acclimating an imported Philodendron Luxurians. Like, these are really, really hard to acclimate. They get upset easily, their roots dry out, they don't handle phytosanitary well. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have this plant. At this point, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it because I have like 2 other ones. I think at a certain point I'm gonna have to make like a mega Philodendron Luxurians, so we'll see. But for the meantime, I'm super happy with the results on this. These are super, super, super hard to acclimate from like shipping, let alone like import. So doing really well in the little tabletop greenhouse. All right, so next, this is a Philodendron Esmeraldense narrow form, and as you can see, yeah, it's kind of it's in an interesting situation. This plant, I didn't like really do a whole lot to make it happy when I first got it. I just kind of like stuck it in water and was like, if it lives, it lives. If it dies, it dies, which is like horrendous to say, because even though I got this plant on like super crazy sale and it wasn't very expensive, there was a time when this plant was like so coveted and bougie, and like, it's like, wow, why have the mighty have fallen? It's just still in water, and as you can see, hopefully, maybe, okay, those are like roots like coming out of the water. It's very much rooting. There's actually a bud down there, which yeah, you can see it. It's right there. So the plant is doing well. This new leaf that came out, this is the leaf that was in the cataphyll when I got the plant. So it's kind of coming out a little funky, but that happens. The first leaf out of the cataphyll, I find a lot of the time it comes out messed up, but that's not really a sign of what's to come for the plant as a whole. If I had it to do over again, I would have stuck it into the tabletop greenhouse immediately, and I would probably have like a big bushy perfect plant, and I just didn't do that, partly because I just didn't have space, and like I was just like not in like the mental frame of mind. I had way too much stuff going on to like think about it, and I don't know if this ever happens to other people, but I find that sometimes I'll like order a bunch of plants, and then by the time they're actually like being shipped to me and coming to my house, I'm not in any like fit state to deal with them, but like I have to, and like it's not a good situation for me or the plants. So that's kind of what happened here, but the plant's fine. It's gonna live. I actually cut it at one point, so there's 2 of them in here now. But yeah, this is gonna recover and be a really nice plant once it's, you know, once it's had a little bit of time and it's getting what it needs. Wait, are these the last ones? No. Okay, no. There's one more after these. Okay, so these are Anthurium Cirinoi. There's two. I got them at the Santa Ana pop-up in September, and they're both doing really, really well. They are kind of like more difficult Anthurium than I thought they were going to be. I figured they'd be like, you know, Magnificum or like maybe Crystallinum level difficulty. Like I would say these are harder than that. They really like their humidity. They really like their warm temperatures, and they really like a lot more light than I'm used to Anthurium preferring. So yeah, they're both still in moss, and I definitely need to water them. So I'm gonna do that as soon as I finish talking about them. But oh man, I just love these so much. They're so beautiful. Like look at this one. Look at this big old leaf. And this one's got a little leaf coming in too. Like so wonderful. But yeah, these are really coveted right now. I actually would say that Anthurium Cirinoi still is like legitimately a rare plant. They are hard to find, and they're not like that easy to keep happy or take care of. So I wouldn't be surprised if like a lot of people that are bringing them in are not having success with them. So I would expect the prices on these to be really high. Like if you like a plant like this, like I don't know what I would price this, but I wouldn't expect to find something like this for less than like at least a couple $100s. So I think they're cool though. I mean like if this doesn't show you the power of the little tabletop greenhouse, then I don't know what would. But they're doing great, super, super happy plants. They just need a little water, and then they'll be back in their little greenhouse, hanging out, enjoying life. Oh my God, I'm like looking at this like mess I'm making, moving all these plants around, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna have to like reconfigure this whole thing, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass. Okay, so the last plant is definitely not the least plant. It's actually like probably one of my favorite plants that I've added to my collection recently, and that is this Philodendron Verrucosum Iricolor. And like, what can I say about this? Holy cow, this plant is just, this plant is everything. Like, it's so beautiful. I don't know like much about it really. My guess is that it's probably like a variety of Verrucosum, but like fuck me if it doesn't give you like Verrucosum x Philodendron Luxurians vibes. Like the veins on it are so pretty and just so big, and like it's so pillowy, and like it's velvety, but it's just it's like so delicate, and it's, you know, it's gonna have the fuzzy petioles on the back. I just love it. It grew really well. So I had it in water for like a good couple of months, and I actually only very, very recently put it in moss, and I cut it so I could consolidate it a little bit, and you can see the cataphyll back here. So, and then hopefully, oh my God, the lighting, I'm so sorry, is not that good today. So, and then there's a bud right there. So hopefully in the next little bit, we'll be seeing, you know, another bud coming out here, and then a nice big leaf coming out of that cataphyll. But man, like this plant is just, it's so good. Like I love it so much. It's so pretty. Like I can't wait until the leaves like coming out look like this, but they're like even bigger. It's gonna be so good. I can't wait. Can't wait. And we're getting into growing season right now, and I'm just like, y'all, like I can't wait. I'm so excited. Like winter in San Diego is like not really winter. It's extremely like mild, and I see people from like other places that have real winters, and it's like on social media all the time, and I'm so grateful that I don't have to deal with that shit. But like, this is what it did over the winter. Like, can you imagine what it's gonna do once growing season like really gets started? Like, I'm shook, you guys. Like, I am so enamored by this, and I just like, oh, I don't know if you'll be able to see, because like I don't know that the lighting is like good enough, but it actually has like a little bit of pink at the sinus. I don't know if I can. You might be able to see it, but like on the back, maybe you can see it better. Yeah, you can't see it. I didn't do a very good job with the lighting this time, you guys. Like maybe. Okay, maybe. Oh, that's better. Okay. Yeah, you can see this plant so much better now. Like, oh, I'm obsessed. Oh my God, it looks so much better on camera now. Like, look at the color. So pretty. It's so pretty. It's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And yeah, you can kind of see the little like pink on there, man. Philodendron Verrucosum Iricolor. Like, if you have seen this online and you're like, is it worth it? Like, I'm not sure. Like, is it just like all the other Verrucosum varieties? Like, I think it's so pretty and like so worth it. I love it. I guess actually this isn't the last plant. There's a couple other ones that aren't that interesting, but I guess the one plant that's like actually not really doing that well that I'm not going to dig through my prop box to find is the Philodendron Verrucosum Amazon Sunset. That's just a wet stick. It was in water. I put it in moss. It's in a prop box somewhere. That was devastating because that plant's so beautiful. But like, I guess if I had to pick one, either this one or that one to do well, I'm like very, very happy that this one is the one that's doing well because it's so pretty. All right, well, that is like pretty much it as far as all the Ecuagenera plants from the pop-ups like in the fall and over the winter. They're all doing pretty well. I mean, the ones that I care about are doing really well, so I'm happy about that. Just so good. There's definitely going to be a lot more pop-up opportunities coming up in a lot of places that they've never happened before. Like, I've been talking to Ecuagenera a little bit here and there, and the full list of places is like, there's a lot, and there's gonna be some in Canada coming up this year. So if you've never had a chance to go to one, keep an eye out. They may be coming to like much closer to you than you would have ever thought before. Like, a lot of the orchid shows, I've been seeing them signed up for. So I mean, I'm sure if you just shoot them an email and ask them like where they're gonna be, they would be happy to provide that to you. So man, I just love this. I love this so much. Like, oh, this has got to be like a new favorite. Look, oh my God, this is becoming a favorites video, but like, this is my favorite. Like, this is my favorite. Here she is. All right, cool. Well, thanks for chilling with me. This has been chaotic half of the video. I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye.